Lemire watched the human work with great interest. She had never seen a human interfacing with a computer before. On this ship, a dozen different sapient species had need of the computers for a million different tasks a billion times a day, and yet this was the first time she'd seen a human do it. It wasn't the way Lemire was used to doing it. She'd wrap her short-term, more dexterous tentacles around the imposphere, and it would measure the positions of her tentacles and interpret that into computer functions like scrolling, text, clicking, and what have you. It was simple. It was natural. It felt as if she were writing with her tentacles on a physical notepad. The human did not use the spheres. It used a board and a small oblong half-dome to navigate the system and enter information. At first, Lemire thought poorly of the process, watching the human's hand pass from the board to the half-dome, wiggle it a bit, then pass back to the board. But as she watched, she became mesmerized by the process. The humans didn't have tentacles like Lemire's people. They had hands, and each hand ended in 5 little pseudo-tentacles called fingers. This was the part that fascinated Lemire. She'd watch as the fingers, rigid and relatively inflexible, would scatter across the board like an insect's legs, leaving a little click-clack sound in their wake. The human could input data about as fast as anyone thanks to these speedy fingers, and they used them for so much more than computer manipulation. Lemire spent the better part of her week following the human around the ship, observing their use of their hands. The human's hands were very gentle. They picked up soft, squishy foods without bursting them, and could pluck items out from crowded areas without disturbing the surroundings. Lemire watched the human pull sharp pieces of hardware, nails they were called, from a box without inflicting damage on their hands. The fingers would gently enter the box, pinch a nail, sometimes a couple nails, and withdraw them. No more force than was necessary to hold them. That incident has also revealed to Lemire that human hands were a sort of sensory organ as well. The human hadn't even looked at the box, but was able to grab a nail with ease. They would touch things all the time without seeing them. Their favourite seemed to be their furry companions, whom they'd stroke absent-mindedly, as an ancient grooming practice. In the morning, Lemire witnessed a human furl their arm about, their hand slapping at their desk in search of an alarm where their eyes remained closed. Almost every time, the hand found the source of the alarm, and was even able to manipulate a button on it without the human ever rising or even looking at the object. They could even detect temperature as well, as the human explained when Lemire caught them rapidly tapping a hot cooking surface. They could check if something was too hot or perhaps too cold by touching it lightly. Perhaps not as accurate as the Vashananki's heat-based vision, but not bad all the same. More than just dexterous tools, though, human hands were weapons. Lemire was riveted by a conflict between two humans one day. The humans clenched their hands, turning them into solid slabs of skin and bone that they hurled at each other. The impacts were fierce, and tightly packed bones in the hands delivered the force of the blow in localized and devastating hits. Even in fighting, the human hand was great at manipulating. One human opened their hand, catching a fist in their palm and closing their fingers around it. They pulled the hand offline and, entrapping the first human's entire arm and making the conflict a grapple rather than a strike. The human's hands clenched at everything they could touch. Clothes were grabbed, hair pulled, faces were even pushed and turned by sturdy fingers. When the fight was broken up, it was by 2 more humans, who came in and used their hands to restrain the arms of the first 2 and began to pull them apart. While they may not have been as flexible and malleable as Lemire's tentacles, human hands truly were a marvel of evolution, in their own way.